Good Saturday, and welcome to our fourth virtual Walk a Mess broadcast. It's so great to have so many of you joining us today. My name is Rob Malter, broadcasting, of course, from my home studio, and I'm with the National MS Society and Walk MS. And as you can see with me, we've got two tremendous guests, and we're going to get to them shortly. But first, just a few announcements to make and fill you in what we're going to be doing today. So while our Walk a Mess experience may look different, our mission remains the same. So if you know someone who is looking for resources related to COVID-19 and MS, please visit the National MS website. We'll also share that link in the comments section. So again, just check out the MS Society website, loads of information for you or anyone living with MS. Of course, because of this coronavirus, all Walk MS events through the end of June are virtual, allowing us to connect, celebrate, and inspire each other, but just in new and unique ways. This weekend, we'll be commemorating 43 events across 25 states. So from Jacksonville, Florida, to Terre Haute, Indiana, to Los Angeles, California, these cities and many others are doing it virtually this weekend, which another way of saying, let's just do Walk a Mess creatively. Virtual means we can't gather in a big group as we have in the past, but we can still commemorate this day, this event, any way you'd like, because it's my walk, my way. So it is all up to you. We're seeing a ton of photos, a lot of videos on social media of people commemorating their Walk MS Day, whether it's walking around your neighborhood, around your yard, or like me later today, I'm commemorating it by doing yard work because that has to be done. And if you're out there watching, we really consider Facebook Watch Party. You know we're getting settling in, so encourage all of you to take a moment and turn this broadcast into a Facebook Watch Party. It's very simple. Just click on the word to say Watch Party on the bottom of your screen, and then invite your friends to watch this broadcast along with you. So a little virtual party for you today. We also want to hear from you as well. So throughout the broadcast, feel free to post your team name, where you're from, your favorite Walk a Mess memory. If there's something that Paul or Amanda says today that really resonates, let them know that you're hearing them. Whatever you'd like to share, we want to hear from you. Put it in that comment section, and we'll do our best to give you some shout outs throughout the broadcast. And as we close, we have a big announcement that we want to share with everybody viewing today. So be sure to hang with us throughout today's broadcast. And now I'm so excited to announce and introduce our guests. So first up, in her great looking hair today is Amanda Brandt Whittle. And Amanda was diagnosed just a little over a year ago on May 30th with multiple sclerosis in 2019. Amanda lives in the beautiful suburbs of St. Louis and St. Charles, Missouri, with her husband, Jason, and their fur baby, Leo. And if we're lucky, we may just see Leo. Oh, and look at that. She brought him right. There's our favorite dog. There's little Leo. And we're going to talk about Leo shortly. But this is Amanda's first year participating in Walk a Mess. But with more than 21 years of experience in marketing, promotion, and events, Walk a Mess seemed very, very similar to Amanda, stuff that she's seen before. We have a lot of fun facts as people in this world. This is probably one of the most fun I've ever had. And Paul, you may not even know this, but Amanda's third great uncle invented Pepsi Cola. And I know what you all are thinking, but unfortunately, Amanda is not an heir to the soft drink giant's fortune. We hope she would, but maybe next time. So Amanda, thank you for joining us today. And first and foremost, how are you doing as your life has changed so much over the last 11 months?
I'm actually doing really well now. It was certainly a roller coaster. After diagnosis, it was a huge shock, and some days were better than others. Actually, more days were worse than others back then, but muscling through it with the help of some people that I call my MS Yodas, that I would like to give a shout out to John Franco, who I call my MS Yoda, and then Jamie Patterson, who I randomly met. She overheard me talking at the hair salon and walked up to me and said, "Hey, I've got MS. I've had it for this many years. We both see Dr. Singer, and we both are on Gilenia." And so it's amazing the people that you meet along this journey. And so I'm doing really well. I used to say that I was on a huge roller coaster, and then I graduated to the kiddie roller coasters, where it was much smaller. And now I'm sort of just coasting, which is really great.
Well, as someone that is scared to death of roller coasters and heights, I will join you on that kiddie roller coaster for as long as you can stay on there. And it's great to have you in it. And, it stinks you're on this team, but we are so glad to have you on this team right now. So we'll get back to you in a second because I know we want to hear a lot more from you and that little dog of yours. But next, I'd like to introduce Paul Weiss. And Paul participates in Walk MS in honor of his older brother, Ed, who was diagnosed with MS more than 30 years ago. So Paul was looking for ways to get involved in society 30 years ago. There was no Google, there was no chat room, there was no internet to reference. So he headed down to his local National MS Society office in New York City to find out his options, and he decided to start a Walk MS team. So Paul's team now is called Team in Motion out of New York, and it has attracted members from everywhere in the Empire State. This group has walked around Chinatown, across the Brooklyn Bridge, and the suburbs of the city. Paul recently celebrated his 20th anniversary as an MS Society staff member. So he's not also a team captain, he also toils daily for the staff. And you guessed it, Paul and his family are now celebrating 30 years being part of Walk MS. And this is what a cool thing is today is the contrast we have in our two guests. Amanda, the wide-eyed rookie, and Paul, the 30-year veteran. So it's going to make for some really, really great conversation. So, Paul, thank you for joining us. And can you just fill everybody in your current role with the Society and what motivates you to take part in Walk MS for 3 decades?
Sure. Well, thanks so much, Rob. It's great to be with you and Amanda and everybody else. And it's been a wild ride. It's been a roller coaster, like Amanda said. I've had the honor of working for the Society in a number of different capacities. I currently lead our marketing and technology efforts. I work with incredibly talented, creative, committed people who every day inspire me and the people that we get to work with and for. We make sure we have the best tools possible. We make sure that we raise awareness as best as we can. We make sure that we amplify the voices of people who live with this disease so that they can be as powerful as possible and to be stronger than the disease. And, I'm honored to be able to do this work. And like you said, I started 30 years ago. And, that was back at a time when there were no answers for people with MS. There was very little hope. As you said, my older brother, Ed, in his early 20s, in the prime of his life, he started to have these just unexplained symptoms. We had no idea what it was. It was a total mystery. And back then, there were very sort of rudimentary diagnostic tools. It took a long time to get an MS diagnosis. So you were sort of in the dark. And then when you did get a diagnosis, pretty much they told Ed, go home and rest because there's really nothing we can do for you. There were no MS drug therapies. We talked to Amanda and within weeks, she was already on a therapy. And that just wasn't the case back in the 80s and early 90s. And so as a family member, you felt pretty hopeless and often pretty helpless. And like you said, there was no internet, there was no iPhone, we didn't have technology. So one day I just literally opened up the phone book and I found the National MS Society and I decided, I'm going to go just walk into the office during lunch one day and see if someone can talk to me about this disease and see how I can help. And the next thing I knew, I was sitting in a conference room with a bunch of other people who had, I think, a similar interest. We were volunteering and, the staff member there who to this day is a good friend of mine, he said, we're looking for volunteers. We do this thing called the Super Cities Walk and we need people to make that happen. And that was how it started. And that was 30 years ago.
And here you are today. And you said back 30 years, there wasn't a lot of hope. It's just you forming a team, same as Amanda, you give hope to people with MS. So thank you for what you're doing. We're going to talk more about you and your team and your brother, I think, on a bit. But I want to go back to Amanda. Amanda, why did you choose to form a walk team? Like, why Walk MS? Why now? Like, what was the factor that got you today?
I think I'm such a control freak that I had the one thing I've learned about MS is that I have zero control over it for the most part. And so what I did have control over was how I approached it with a positive attitude. And I'm not a wallower. I simply can't. I don't have time for that. I need sunshine and rainbows. And so I wanted to form a team so I could give back to the people that gave to me initially, especially, you know, the MS Society was my first go-to. While we do have Google, Dr. Google is the worst doctor on the planet. Um, there was a lot of nights of crying because Dr. Google said XYZ. And so once I decided to shut that down, then let me go to the real source. And so I just wanted to give back because I feel like I'm so lucky and so blessed that I have insurance and that, you know, I don't have to worry about, you know, mobility right now or those kinds of things or how I'm going to afford my medicine. And so, you know, maybe down the line I will. I mean, I don't know. So if I give now, hopefully when I take one day, it'll good karma will come around.
For sure. I mean, karma is a thing. And you said too, there's things that are out of your control. And those of us that are control freaks, similar to this pandemic we're living in, we don't have a lot of control, but what can you control? Your effort, your attitude, along with if you take part in Virtual Walk MS or fundraise. So Amanda, so glad that you're still taking part of it. And I think I saw you had 59 people on your first year team. Is that right? Like that's a pretty big number. How did you rally all these people to join you?
You know, I think it really started, you know, quote unquote at home. And my second home is my work. And since I was diagnosed, my first symptom of optic neuritis started the day before I started at the job. So my first day was May 20th, and I woke up with what ended up being optic neuritis on May 19th. And so when I went there on my very first day, I'm like, okay, I'm here to be the marketing director and I'm half blind. Oh, I'm going to probably need to leave work early. And so that, you know, but what was so interesting is it's a completely employee, you know, owned company. And some of the senior leadership would come in and say, you know, I think that you might think that because you're the first one in, you're the least cared about, but it's actually the reverse. Wow. And so they became a gold sponsor, donated $6,000, and hence Outpace MS. Our company is Pace Properties. They are a huge part of the team, plus all my friends and family. You know, when one goes down, they all go down with you. And then when one needs raising, we all rise. So.
Correct. It's all about support. It's all about connecting and be there when people need us. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit more. But Paul, I want to go back to you. Walk MS is so different this year, probably different than the prior 29 years that you've seen. But how does this event that you've known and loved for so long, changing so dramatically, how did that make you feel?
Yeah. So, you know, I'll admit that when we first found out that we were moving virtual this year, it was disappointing. You know, as you know, I've been doing this walk every year. And for me, it's probably, you know, the most empowering and inspiring day of the year for me. It's when we're all together. It's the MS community. We're both celebrating the progress that we've made and recommitting to, you know, finishing this disease. And for me to be with a community of people who are all rallying around the same thing, it's just so powerful. So, you know, knowing that we weren't going to be able to be together personally, that was hard. And it took me a little bit of time. You know, what Amanda said, I think is so true, which is, you know, we can't control everything, and there's certain things we can't control. So that was out of our control, right? But what we can control is that we made the most of the circumstances, and, you know, the way we pivoted and brought together this virtual community is like, it's so inspiring, you know, that we're together from literally around the country. I mean, Rob, you and I have worked together. We live in different parts of the country. We would have never met except for these adverse circumstances. And, you know, I'm just blessed to, you get to meet people who are doing, remarkable things for people with MS. And I've just been, really, it's been gratifying to see how people have rallied around this and have said, you know what, MS doesn't stop just because there's a pandemic. And so we're not going to stop either. We can't. People with MS need us. And it's too important the work we do. So we'll figure out another way. And that's what we're doing.
And we'll continue on, right? And we will not stop until we find that cure. And Paul, you alluded to it a little bit, but taking part in an event for 30 years and asking people to donate and fundraise and rally supporters, that can be a grind. That can be a lot. And it's like, holy cow, can I do this again? Can I make this happen for my team and my family? But what's your motivation, maybe each year, each day, to continue leading your walk team among the many other things that you do with the society, both professionally and, on a volunteer team captain basis?
Yeah, well, certainly the easiest answer is my older brother, Ed. Growing up together, he was my older brother and we shared a room together. He was always the bigger, the faster, the smarter, the stronger one. And, I always looked up to him and I was always, sort of in awe of who he was and what he could do, and seeing how MS, really ravaged his body was, the most painful thing I've ever, had to experience. And we all have choices to make. And I saw him make a choice of not letting the disease get the best of him. I saw him handle his MS with humor and with dignity, and he continued to move his life forward. And I said, if Ed can do it, well, the least I can do is, do what I can in his honor. And that, being able to walk and just put one foot in front of the other. I said, if Ed can't walk, I'll walk for him. And that's what I've been doing for 30 years. And, I'll keep doing it, Rob, as long as we have to. And as long as Amanda and people like Amanda are getting diagnosed with MS. And, I put it in my communications that, I'm here until we live in a world free of MS. And that's, for me, that's what it's all about.
So great, Paul. And it changes, right? When people around you are affected by it, and your idol growing up probably was your brother. So it's like, now I feel that's probably shifted. And I feel you've got my vote for brother of the year. I've got a brother, but you are outpacing me in what you're doing for him. So thank you for all you're doing. Outpace. I know that. That was just off the fly there, Amanda. So, I expect a check in the mail from you. I want to say what's up to, outpace MS. They'll love it. Say what's up to Simone Williams. And Simone is in Jersey City. So, Paul, she's very close to you. She's, wants to say hello to her MS warriors, and also wanted to say that MS does not define those living with MS. You can define exactly your MS. I think we've heard many people say that. And Amanda, I think one way that you're defining MS is helping, with that little dog that you've got on your lap. And so let's talk about, so if everybody hasn't, let's meet Leo. So everybody say hi to Leo. This is where we're going to get a lot of awes on camera. But hey, Leo is the most chill dog ever, to his bandana and his official Walk MS leash. But how has Leo helped you, or just has he been instrumental in helping you raise funds and staying connected? Talk a little bit about how you've used this dog.
Well, I don't know that he necessarily helped raise funds. He's a little lazy. But I have a friend who's an amazing photographer she's the one that shot these photos for me, and Canon. And how he's been helpful to me, though, is truly a therapy dog. He's not trained to be a therapy dog, and we lost our last dog on Mother's Day last year. And so we decided, I kept saying, I'm not ready. And then at one point I finally was ready. And when we got him, it was every time, like potty training him. I think when you're first newly diagnosed, all you think about is MS. And I would say, what did I think about before? Like, did I think about taking the garbage out? Did I think about, what in the world did I think about 24 hours a day? Because now all I think about is MS, and I constantly scan my body. Is this hurting? Is this hurting? Is this, And so when we got this little guy at like 5 months, taking him out and potty training him. Like every time I would take him out, it was just like, I would think about something else for that, 10 minutes. And so and then just petting him and just, playing with him and raising him, it has been the best experience for me. And so while he's not a quote unquote therapy dog, he certainly is mine.
He's your therapy dog, and getting your mind off things, that's pretty darn good. We were talking earlier, and there's one thing you didn't take your mind off, and that was fundraising. Can you just share real quick how much you've raised so far? And I think you started in January. Is that right?
I think, I started at the end of January, and I have raised $21,300.
That deserves a few rounds of applause there.
Amazing.
Thank you. I'm glad that I started early, but I'm not going to stop just because of COVID. There's, just like you guys said, MS doesn't stop. And selfishly, why do I want to raise money? I want a cure. Like I want remyelination. Like these are the things that I want. So selfishly, it's all about me.
And in this case, Amanda, I think Paul and I would agree with you. It's okay to be selfish with that, because that's one thing that you can do to help fuel that research and fuel that cure. And Paul, we had a shout out from Katie Martin for you, and she says thank you.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, she says thank you for sharing. So many of us see the toil that MS takes in our loved ones. This is why we walk. So we know that there are many people out there just like you. But with the response from Katie, what was the response that you had from your team and your supporters that it flipped virtual? Did they care it was virtual? Was it out of sight, out of mind? Talk a little bit about what you saw and felt from people when you told them, we're not gonna be able to get together, but I still need you.
Yeah, it's been so affirming and truly inspiring. I mean, I think, this is such an unprecedented time. We're going through something that the world has never seen before. We have no idea where this ends, what's going to be in our future. But what we know is, we live in a world today where there are still people living with MS, and we know that MS does not take a break just because there's a global pandemic. And that's how I tried to, message it to people that have been with me on this journey for so many years. And it's been amazing to see the outpouring of support. And I didn't know what it was going to be like. I set a goal every year, and people who work with me in the office in New York, they see my thermometer up and I mark it up. And, I every year I'm trying to get my personal fundraising to $7,500.
Excellent.
And this year, as soon as we had to close our office and we all went virtual, I was like, I have no idea if I'll be able to get there. And I've gotten 4 gifts just since we started this call. And I think I just went over $7,000, Rob. And there are people who are just, it's been amazing, and it's been through Facebook. I still send out letters. I mean, now we have great tools that allow us to do it. But back in the day, you literally put your letter in an envelope, put a stamp on it, handwrote an address, and stuck it in the mail. That's how we raised money back then. And yet it doesn't change that what people really want to do. They want to help. And, and if you write a check and that's your way of making a difference, it does make a difference. And the research doesn't happen. I mean, like you heard Amanda say, she wants to cure as bad as anybody, right? So, the first thing I learned about fundraising is, I'm not asking for myself. I'm asking for all the other people. Nearly 1 million people in this country live with MS. And we want a cure for every one of those people. So it's, if you frame it in a way like that, I think it's not nearly as hard and not as overwhelming. And one of the things I learned is that if you try to make decisions for other people and you say, oh, I can't ask now, what we know for certain is if you don't ask, people will not give. Yep. And I've learned that I never take it personally. And if somebody doesn't give, it's totally fine. Everybody has their own set of circumstances. People give when they can, what they can. But, I view it as I'm giving people an opportunity to be part of really an amazing thing, which is helping other people who live with a frightening oftentimes devastating disease.
100%. And sometimes those choices, they don't have any except to just continue on going. And that's what we have to do too, is continue going. And Paul, you said something that I think will resonate with many on this call to understand, how do I fundraise? Do I consider it? You don't know how people are feeling or what they can do unless you ask. So you said it right. Like, just go ahead. And I feel you both are okay, more than comfortable asking, but some people have to work up to that. So just thank you. And a huge credit to you for, still considering asking, because like you said, we don't stop. And one of those folks that's not going to stop, who's on the live stream with now, is Ilana Coleman. She's with Team Yogi. So I want to say hi to Yolanda. She was diagnosed in 2000. So about 15 years for her. 20 years. Math is hard on a Saturday, but she started walking in 2005. So Paul, she's right behind you at the halfway point, doing this for 15 years. And she says she loves participating every year, like many do, and will continue as long as her body allows. That just goes to show the power and the spirit of people living with MS, how far they want to go as much as they need it. So Amanda, last question for you. Besides Leo, who else is keeping you motivated right now? What's keeping you going in this weird time we're in?
Oh my gosh. First and foremost, I would say my husband.
Good.
He has been an amazing support. I'm still working, so that's I think I work longer now than before. And then I would say my friends and family and the digital world has been, so wonderful and something that we wouldn't have had before. And then, I think the one great thing about a pandemic in 2020 is our neighbors. Like, the fact that when it's bright and sunny out and spring is sprung, seeing everyone walking their dogs and out with their kids, I mean, it's like I have never seen my neighbors more, because and walking around our neighborhood, we're just meeting people left and right, and and he's a chick magnet, so like
figured you had a little furry help there with somebody that
we're just picking up neighbors left and right. So I mean, it's so fun.
It's so fun. And you're like me, you're in the Midwest, and Paul too. Our winters are brutal, aren't they?
Yeah.
And people, you don't see them for months and months. It's like, holy cow, you live next to me. It's great to meet you. Thanks for being here. So cool that you're using it to your advantage too, Amanda, to promote, maybe your team, what you're doing, but just promote community. That's a pretty cool thing too, to have out there.
Yeah.
Paul, 30 years ago, the walk probably looked a little different than it was last year. So if you can sum up just in, succinctly as you can, what did that look like 30 years ago? What was Walk MS? Like, how did we do that? I think the routes were a lot longer, but just, encapsulate, if you could, what Walk MS was 30 years ago.
Yeah, so that was back in the day when you would ask people to sponsor you by the mile.
Sure.
And so I think back in 1990, we created a 20-kilometer walk so that you could get 20 cents, $20 per mile. And that's like almost a 13-mile walk. And that route had to be marked with the orange signs, the arrows, so people know where they were going. The first year we started down at the World Financial Center all the way in Lower Manhattan, and we wound our way through the financial district and Greenwich Village and Little Italy and Chinatown and over the Brooklyn Bridge and through Brooklyn Heights. And I was sort of naive and dumb enough that I raised my hand when the guy said, "Oh, and we need somebody to mark the route." And it was my first time, mobilizing a group of people, and friends of mine were nice enough and also naive enough that they said, "Sure, I'll come down on a Saturday." And we literally marked a 12.5-mile route with the orange markers and rolls of tape. And the thing that was in common, Rob, was that thousands of people showed up on the plaza at the World Financial Center because they love somebody with MS. And like me and like Amanda, they wanted to do something to make a difference. And that was really powerful. And, I look at the people I've met because of this horrible disease, and I think I am so blessed to have met, really the most inspiring people I know. So it was pretty neat. Yeah.
And long walks aside, the one thing that remains true for Walk MS is just people getting together. That's what it's about, whether it's in person whether it's virtually, whether it's out on a walk around your neighborhood, just getting together and connecting. And one person who's watching today is Becky Tessman, and her husband was diagnosed in 2005, and she said she loves the idea of gathering people for walks, but she even loves the idea of virtual walks even more because she can connect with others from around the world. And we've already seen people from different continents take part in Walk MS. We never thought that they would. So how cool is that? We're even just expanding out a little bit more. And before we get into our big announcement, one last comment from Jen Johnson Gogarty. I hope I'm saying it right. She said she's so inspired by everyone living with MS and their stories that they share. This is why she walks and raises funds to one day help create a world free of MS. And that's what it's about. Our goal will not change until we find that cure. So thank you to both of you for just your candid comments and maybe inspiring and maybe seeding some ideas for others as well. So as I said, we do have a big announcement. We're going to get to that in a second, but just some steps everyone can take right now to help out as part of Virtual Walk MS. First one is register and build your team to show support of Virtual Walk MS. You know, you want to help demonstrate just how big and powerful this movement is. There's no registration fee. There is no barrier. All you have to do is just go ahead and register. It is very easy. Do it today and then join your walk. Fundraise if you are able. We've said it a few times how critical fundraising is to fuel programs as well as services, and our very, very groundbreaking MS Navigator program that continues to support people by MS even in this pandemic. If you're on Facebook, which many of you are because you're watching this stream right now, but create a linked fundraiser when you register. You'll be amazed at how simple it is and how many people support you by you put a couple posts up on Facebook. If you both aren't, Paul and Amanda, I hope everybody on the call is use that hashtag Virtual Walk MS, whether it's on a home treadmill, whether you're walking a dog like Leo, put on your orange, take a picture, use that hashtag, share it on social media. That is something we all do every day, social media. Very, very, very easy to do that one. Also want to give a huge shout out to our Walk MS sponsors. These events could not happen without them. Their support continues through all of this. We have so many wonderful local sponsors. There's too many to mention across this country, as well as our 2020 premier and national sponsors. You've seen their names on the screen throughout this broadcast. Some of you might know them as well, and you're going to see them as well with their swag, and they're going to give it to you at a future walk coming up. We promise you that in the future. So now, big announcement, and we said it's about fundraising, right? Like we have to continue to raise funds. So I'm very, very excited to share that next week we'll be asking all of our Walk MS participants, donors, and sponsors to kick it up just one notch any way you can. And that reason why is because we're going to try to raise at least $100,000 between April 20th and April 24th. And if we do, an anonymous donor is going to give the society a $50,000 gift to support individuals diagnosed with MS. So Paul and Amanda, it's a great week to continue to be out there. And I know exactly. It's like we want to get as much as we can in. So every little dollar counts. Every sneaker that gets posted, every $5 donation on Facebook, it all goes to the cause. So hope everybody that's listening will consider that match that's coming up this week. Pretty cool that we still have that. And of course, thank you to our anonymous donor for that tremendous support. We know that we still have them and their support. How cool is that? So before we sign off, Paul and Amanda, any final thoughts? I started with Amanda, so this time, Paul, I'm going to start with you. Any final thoughts for the crowd?
Well, I'd be totally remiss, Rob, if I didn't shout out people that have been with me, really every step of this journey. And it starts with my family members. I'm from a large family. I'm blessed to have 6 other siblings. And even though we're spread out literally all around the country, we're close. And whenever we're together, we laugh and have fun. And I will say that the biggest rallying point we've had as a family is around Ed's MS. And so I just want to thank my siblings who really have been, my sense of strength for many years. We're blessed that our mother, Roseanne, is still alive, and she's been Ed's companion for many, many years. And I'm convinced that his quality of life is better because of my mother's really just unyielding love and commitment to him. And then, of course, I married the greatest person ever, my wife, Annie. I'm getting a little emotional just saying it. but she and our 3 children, Ryan, Charlotte, and Cecilia, they've lived with this their entire lives, and they've been walking as long as they could walk. And, I just, to have the support that I've had from my family and, the friends that I've met along the way, it really is what inspires me and keeps me going. And, of course, Ed is our source of strength and inspiration through it all. So it's so nice to be with you, Rob and Amanda, and just thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, of course. And thank you for all that you're doing. And of course, the next 30 years, we hope we're just gathering to hang out and have fun, because
Exactly.
we found that here. It's all about family. We know that. So Amanda, we're going to let St. Charles, Missouri close us out here. So final thoughts from you before we let people go for the day.
Rob, you're getting me. Whew. Oh gosh, between you guys, both of you. I think what my final words would be to someone newly diagnosed, or I'm learning someone that's had a relapse, that hold on. Like, literally, I'm going to cry now. Like, hold on. That's all. Some days it just said, hold on, you'll get through it, and find your person. So find someone that's going through, that has MS, that's on the other side, and just hang on to that person and reach out as frequently as you need to. And because it does get easier, and you will be okay.
Awesome, man. I couldn't say it any better than that. Thank you for being here today. And, I look forward to hosting both you and Paul here in beautiful Milwaukee for a baseball game one day, if that can actually happen. Where
we'll make it happen, Rob.
And the Cardinals, that would be great. So I look forward to that opportunity in which we can gather together. So again, thank you.
Thank you
for joining. I want to thank all of our viewers as well for joining, for commenting, and don't stop. You heard Amanda, just keep going and hold on, because things will get better. So our next broadcast is next Saturday, same time, same channel. That's Saturday, April 25th, noon Eastern. We'll have many more great guests giving you their reasons why this is so important, what we're doing. So thanks again for supporting. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure you keep supporting Virtual Walk MS and each other, and have a great Saturday.
Thank you.